So you become sensitized to what education is. Is it education? Is it propaganda? Is it skills-based, etc., etc.? Lots of problems. Of course there are skills. Of course we need to develop skills. You know, so much. The performing arts themselves are skills. Standing on your head is a skill. Dancing is a skill. Playing the piano is a skill. These are all skills. But skills to what end? How are the skills to be used? And what is the connection within what we call education between the accumulation of these skills and the use of these skills? Thomas Paris said yesterday something very engaging when he mentioned that the problem isn't getting the money. The problem is how to use it. What you actually do with it is the question. And we don't want to delimit that. We do not want to contain the human spirit and the spirit of creative expressiveness across all cultures. In any way, we do not want to contain it. We do not want to set a march or a parameter on the possibilities of anybody's individual journey, whether it's within the arts or outside it. Economy is a funny word. I was interested that, the economy of culture. And I wondered, is there a difference between the economy of culture and the economics of culture? And it set me wondering about the word economy. For example, you could talk about the economy of education. You could talk about the economy of health. And in situations like that, you might then be talking about private health systems. You might be talking about exclusive private educational tracks, wonderful things, if you happen to be in them. And of course, as many of you know, the origins of the word economy come from the Greek oikonomos. Oikos is a house, and nomos is manager. So in the strict sense, it's about minding house. It's about minding the house. How do you mind a house? Well, there's the sustainability. You have to put food on the table. You have to keep the place warm, make sure the roof isn't leaking. You have to have sustainability within the house of health, within the house of education, and within the house of culture. You have to have some kind of sustainability if you're the housekeeper. And you need skills to do that. And you need a great deal of human compassion to do that, and a great deal of love in the house to make the house actually worth living in the first place. The questions are interesting as well. The central questions we're asked to address are revealing. In the case of education, I find myself being asked in the documents, how can we use education to foster competitiveness? That's a valid question. How can we use education to foster competitiveness? I'm not that interested in the question, to be honest with you. Because I'm sitting there with my students, and I have to tell them sometimes it's okay to lose, Sometimes it's actually very important to lose. Losing could be the right thing to do. You could lose because you're right. So the initial question is a giveaway. It says, should culture or creativity be better promoted in education and lifelong learning so as to foster entrepreneurial spirit and competencies? Another hat I wear is as a musicologist, an ethnomusicologist, which in a way is the anthropology of music. And I was always taught in anthropology not to ask leading questions. And that's a leading question. That's okay. You get a forum together for 2 days and you think they're going to go around in circles. So we'll ask them a few leading questions to take as much as possible off the table so that the little bit that's on the table will get managed properly. It's okay, but let's be aware of, we are being asked leading questions. Should we promote culture in education so as to foster competitiveness? Us and them. In this corner, Europa. In the other corner, the rest of the world. We really need to begin by asking a deeper question, perhaps one that's taken for granted by everyone, although I, for one, am not buying into that. We could ask the question, why should culture, why should creativity be better promoted in education and lifelong learning? We must remember that fostering entrepreneurship through education is but one, very important one of the pathways that can open up out of the educational relationship. If we begin, however, with a single resultant pathway, we'll be basing our deliberations on something akin to the tail wagging the dog. And anyway, entrepreneurship, where does it come from? Have you ever seen an entrepreneur who wasn't self-confident, who was totally apologetic about themselves? You know, it comes from a sense of self. It comes from a sense of your own personality. It comes from what we're told education should be about coming into yourself. Entrepreneurship is surely a natural corollary, cherry on the cake fallout of genuine educational relationship. We educate to release the life already present. In facilitating its release, we are mindful of the temporal practicalities that underpin human existence and coexistence. Yet our fundamental task is to facilitate the release of a personal, global community of voices within us as individuals. Within that, our satellite view, our, to use a phrase by the poet Seamus Heaney, our bird's eye view of a bird, can focus in on Europe, a Europe we can never understand in terms of its dynamism of change without first sensing its widest context. A further tightening of focus will bring us to our local communities, be they nation states or whatever, and eventually we will find ourselves back where we came from. In the words of T.S. Eliot, "In my beginning is my end, in my end is my beginning." The second question is on intercultural competence. We're asked, basically, I think, should we get to know each other better so that we can, as a team, compete better? Not should we get to know each other better, because that's basically, essentially, a good idea and a decent human thing to do. Is there some implication in there that unless we get this thing right, that we're in big trouble? We certainly are. And I would suggest the question is again being asked against too narrow a canvas. We should develop intercultural competency through extracultural competency. Competition is a secondary consideration within interculturalism, just as innovation and entrepreneurship are secondary, important, but secondary considerations within the parameters of culture-based education. The third question: how to address the role of culture and art education in fostering such competitiveness. In this corner and in this corner